Welcome everybody to another episode of the Bulletproof Dental Practice Podcast. And since Peter is traveling today, I've got the distinct pleasure of co-hosting with Erika Pusillo. I'm super excited about that.
Yeah, I'm excited for the opportunity too. I always enjoy having our conversations, but now we get to record them live. And I think, especially with the topic that we have today, culture, and with Judy K, you all will get to see how we interact live and communicate within our practice because we do this day in, day out. And then also enjoying Judy's company, who I absolutely love and have seen her speak many times.
Yeah, so it's really good to have you, Judy K. For those who don't know, Judy K. Mausolf and Erika and you were hanging at ADOM, right?
Yes.
And that's how this all came to be. Tell us the story of how this lovely opportunity was presented to us.
Yeah, well, I'll get started.
Please.
So I saw Judy for the first time at ADOM while she was speaking in 2016. And when I was there and learned about, can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. And learned about what she did. She's just so inspiring, so positive. I started following her on Facebook, Instagram, and so forth. And she is one of the few people out there that put out positivity in this world, like setting the tone for the day. You have your motivational quotes, you call them Ray for the day, correct?
That's correct.
And yeah, and I love that. I feel like we don't get enough good vibes out there. I think we're just so inundated with what's not going right or the conflict.
Especially in dentistry.
Yeah, and everywhere.
Oh
I mean,
God, yeah.
So anyways, that's how I started following you, and I've seen many of your the videos that you record, that you do online, and of webinars, and then the in-person events as well. And I was like, she's a must-have to have on the podcast, especially when we talk about culture. It's a buzzword out there. I think a lot of us know culture, but also how we can improve our cultures within our practice, improve our communication with our teams, especially when hiring is so hard. I think right now we're not in a position to let people go as easily as it may have been in the past because there aren't more people to choose from.
Yeah,
and so I
body
think
count.
Yeah, I think we need to work with the people that we have. So Judy, if you'd like to say a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, you've been
and
a great
what you do.
guest listener thus far for Erika's my podcast, but we'd love to hear from you as well.
I love it. Well, Erika, so you said some things. I took a couple of notes because I want to come back to those. So, well, it was a pleasure meeting you as well. And I think our friend Ileana introduced us. And you are just a delight and full of energy yourself. So I think it's one thing to say, okay, we're going to be positive and try to be upbeat, but it has to be authentic as well. And I think that we have to set ourselves up to succeed. You asked me something before we started, Dr. Spodak, about how are we doing for time? And I said, I'm good with you. I make sure that I try to lessen any stress in my life to make it more realistic. So many people don't take that into account, and they're spinning all the time. So when you're like this, little things become overwhelming. But when you are calm, those little things are very doable. So happiness and positivity, there's actually strategy behind it. You don't just wake up and go, yay, it's all going to be perfect again today. It doesn't work that way. So I think part of this is helping teams and doctors understand, how do we deal with what happens, and that life doesn't happen to us, but that stuff is going to happen forever. So how do we recoup? How do we reset? How do we create a culture that we actually want to work in, where we're excited to come to work, and create a safe haven, so that, because we can't control the rest of the world, but we can control what goes on in our practice, right?
I like that. I want to jump in on something, Erika, because Erika and I have been together for most of my professional career. And there was a time when, I was trying to build a business, and I was the largest practicing dentist of our entire group. And when you don't have any time, so when you have 2 or 3 patients deep, and Cindy, the hygienist, needs something from you, and there's an HR issue or a culture, something where the team needs you, there's only so fast you can run. And it gets to the point where you've built a system that's actually working against you.
Right.
And I tell people that all the time because what you need to do for those dentists who are aspiring to build a larger practice or maybe want to become entrepreneurial. And again, that's not for everybody, but for me, it's what I wanted. I was building a recipe for failure because I was so busy. There was no calm. And I love what you just said because it reminds me of something a mentor of mine says. He says, people seek happiness, but really what we're seeking is peace. Because if you have peace, happiness shows up as a byproduct. Because if you're seeking happiness, there's a duality there. You can't seek happiness. You can only seek peace. And when you have peace, peace from mind, peace from activity, happiness kind of just shows up. And I love how you started with that. It was very, very poignant for me and Erika because I was running around like a maniac and she was trying to scale because I couldn't. So I was doing all the dentistry or a lot of the dentistry. I'm like, at least you get out of the chair and then you start scaling. And invariably I'd have assistants come in and these poor girls, I'd be like, leave, get Erika, and have to run and get Erika because Erika's trying to get more, operational and more C-suite executive level. And I was pulling her back, but I knew at least if I couldn't do it, let her break out.
Yeah, I think that you're just talking about also it's an energy. And, I think that time is going by so much faster for all of us. I feel like we're just like in this like warp speed of information. People want it now. People want it fast, including our team. And especially when you have larger teams, you're stretched super thin. You want to be able to give everybody their piece of time, and it's hard to say no because you don't want to come across as unhelpful, especially as a practice leader or an office manager. So, Judy, what advice would you give for somebody that feels like we're speeding up and it sounds great to slow down to be able to have that peace, but how do you work it in when life is basically choosing the speed for you?
Good question.
Well, I would respectfully disagree that life doesn't choose our speed for us. We still make choices. Okay, so things happen, and it's like the frog in the boiling water. Stuff happens, it gets busier and it gets busier, and I think for a lot of us, when COVID hit, it was a reset. The rug was pulled out from underneath of us, and we had to stop. 2019 was my craziest, busiest year, and you slowly get into it. You don't even realize you do this thing and you do this and then you do this, and pretty soon you're spinning so many plates and you don't realize that you're not honoring what you said you wanted to do initially, right? And not unlike you, Dr. Spodak, the busier you get, the more things that have to be done. Well, somebody's got to do it, and that somebody is you, or that somebody is Erika, because you're the ones that were capable of doing it. So you just step up more and more and more. It's really, if you get so busy being busy, you can't step back and make wise decisions. All you're doing is putting out fires. So you have to look back. You have to realize that right now, staffing is a huge issue. I get it. And yet it doesn't have to be. Part of the problem is we are trying to accommodate our patients, which is wonderful. I don't disagree with that. However, we have to be mindful that not to the extent of that we don't accommodate our team as well. Our team we need each other, or we can't do what we do. And so many practices that I work with, I see that you've got your team members who've been loyal, who've stayed there for years and who have just been pushing through this, and then they're hiring new people, and the new people don't necessarily stay, and they're exhausted, and they're still running at that same speed as if they were full staffed. It's going to be a burnout. We're going to lose our best team members. We have to sit back for a second. It's not just about hiring new team members. It's first of all, how do we make sure we keep the good team members? And I'm going to respectfully disagree again and get rid of the bad team members. Not bad, but the toxic performers. Let's put it that way. Those team members who are good at what they do, but they are Godzilla to the team.
Yeah.
Because if we wouldn't allow it, and here's the very simple filter or benchmark. If you wouldn't allow that behavior towards a patient, then we should never allow that behavior towards a team member. Because these are our troops, these are our people, this is our tribe, this is what we need to make things happen. And if we truly commit to taking really good care of our team, that means that toxicity isn't allowed between each other.
Yeah,
That I agree with. I think more of the point I was trying to get across is that what's the intermediate point behind before you get to that point where you let someone go? And I think that when we talk about practices or people that aren't great with leadership or aren't great coaches, the first automatic is let me give up on this person
Right.
before giving them the opportunity to rise to the occasion. I think it's especially in those times like you have to be a better leader to have a better team.
Yes.
And I think that if you're not
100%.
willing to go that route, then yeah, the easy route is getting rid of the toxic person. But maybe the leader is the person that is inspiring the toxicity and that person's responding to it. And so that really is where it's coming from is how do we help this seemingly toxic person maybe first? Like what do we do first in
Okay.
order to give this person the
Yeah, we
opportunity?
actually have a recipe for failure as most of us dentists. We're taught extensively how to treat teeth, and we go through an exhaustive amount of training. And at least when I went to school 100 years ago, not one single minute about leadership, culture, or business systems. So
Right.
we're thrust out. We're the first instinct when you're a dentist and you're put into a brand new clinical situation is like, holy shit, I don't know what I'm doing. I better like portray confidence. I better not like let on. You've worked with new dentists before. It's a
Mhm.
scary thing. And now you're expected to be this leader, business owner. So we're just bullshitting our way through it. We don't know. So
Right.
we're barking orders. We're telling people, we're over systematizing, over protocoling people. Like, this is how you answer the phone. This is how you do everything. And what we as dentists need to do is just take a step back. Like, yes, you're a dentist. You know how to do this stuff, but you don't know what the challenges are with the admin. You don't know what the challenges of the hygienist are. So it's this first, I always say, like in leadership, like we point the finger out, but there's always three fingers pointing back
Right.
at us. And I think what you're getting to, Erica, is like, we need to grow. You can't have great people if you don't invest in your own leadership. So I hope there's just an aha for people to say, like, because we didn't know what the hell we were doing. We just failed forward and we kept getting better and better. I'm like, I should take this course. You should read this book. And Eric and I were trading back and forth. There's literally thousands and thousands of effort and hours between it. Now it's a symphony. It's magical, but damn, there's a lot of hard work there.
Right.
And I think it's just this, we need to have a little grace as dentists to say, like, hey, I'm excellent at what I know how to do, and I don't know how to do what I don't know how to do. And it's okay. So, when I meet in the mastermind or Bulletproof or whatever, you were there in Cabo
Mhm.
last week or 2 weeks ago in Cabo,
Yes.
Mexico. And it's like, what do I need to do? I'm like, well, what does your team want? Well, I never really asked them. How do I fix these problems? Well, what are the problems? Well, I never asked. So what the hell are you talking about? You never asked anybody. And it's because we have to come up with the answers. Patients are looking at us on day one. What do I do, doc? And we're like, here's exactly what you do. It's just, so it's like this fake it or, and it's really unfortunate because the situation and the institutions and the educational complex of dentistry is broken and not teaching us this stuff. So the average person's listening and it's after burnout and failure. So I think what we're doing here, if we can catch those people before they have to fail so hard, like we did, then we have a good thing.
Well, and I think there's some simple things too for starting. When it comes to the new team members, first of all, is really being clear about what that position looks like when we're hiring and what the expectations are. Some really busy offices downplay the busyness. And I said, don't do that. Let them know if you like a busy environment, this is the place for you. Because if it's somebody that wants to move at the speed of a turtle and only wants to see one person every hour and a half or two, it's not going to fly. It's never going to work. So don't even go down that path.
Yeah,
The
like, don't
better,
sell it. I sell everything, Judy, which is a problem. Like, I'm a good salesperson. So Erica will put the brakes on that. Someone will say, like, I kind of like a more slow pace. I'm like, yeah, it can be slow here. Erica's like, no, no, no. This is a fast-paced environment. So don't sell it. You
right.
gotta you gotta
And
be fully disclosing of what it
And then
is.
you really have to manage the expectations. Those team members, they haven't worked in your practice. Even if they are trained and they've worked else, it's very different from culture to culture, from office to office, from expectations. And knowing the two of you, I know that you have high expectations, which is a great thing,
Mhm.
and you are the top notch in the industry. And so the expectations are here. And that's a great thing. However, we need to manage that new team member coming in so they're not overwhelmed right away either. Those first month or 2 or 3 months, they're just like, wow, there's so much stuff here. And if we can be clear about expectations on a weekly, those first 3 months, with the new team member and the existing team members. Because see, the existing team members, if this person's worked anywhere else, within 2 weeks, they think they should have it. They're tired of training, they're tired of this, they're tired of that. But if they have clear benchmarks, week 1, this is the minimal that this person needs to perform at. And I say minimal because we want to know at week 1 or week 2 already whether this person has the capabilities to work.
Absolutely.
You know, and so oftentimes we do those magical 90 days, which I don't know why we invest a full 90 days. If somebody can't move from week 1 to week 2, and by week 3, if they still can't do what they were supposed to be able to do in week 1, we've got a problem. And instead of investing 90 days or all this time in with having our existing team working and training, we want to make sure that it's realistic. But it also really adjusts the expectations of the existing team as well. And knowing, look, at this person accomplished this and this. Yes, they can't help me with this over here, but they're on course. They're doing well, right? And if they learn faster, super. But we don't want to. Team members have a tendency to pick the person who learned the fastest at this, and then that's where they compare them. And then there's always this, well, I don't think they're working out, or I don't think I should have to do this, and then we want to pick team members that are actually good trainers as well.
Yeah.
I think if we paint with broad brushstrokes, I know we're all we're our ears down to the ground when it comes to helping dentists. I think the common idea is I've got the wrong team. I think if you polled the people that are frustrated, an overwhelming majority just believe they have the wrong team, and that's not good either.
Well, but I'll say that why is it they believe they have the wrong team? And I think just to Judy's point is they probably didn't have expectations. And I think that we're constantly managing what someone is expecting you to do without them communicating those expectations. They're getting upset and not giving that person the opportunity to actually rise to that occasion. I think that goes back to like, what is step 1 before we write off this person?
Right.
Are we doing a great job as a leader communicating what we need and how to win?
And also, what do they want? Like you see, like, hey, you're going to be my office manager. Well, I don't like doing that. Well, no, you've been here the longest. You get to do it. And then there's no communication. So it's like when we interact with these people, it's almost like an intervention. Like, I thought you liked Italian food. No, I absolutely hate it. But I take you there for your birthday every single time. So it's a failure on multiple levels. But when you believe you have the wrong team, like mindset is very important in my world. Like if you really believe that, if you believe your entire team is wrong, it's really hard to work and take positive steps forward if you have that belief. So you have to get a little curious. I think the first step is like, okay, maybe I didn't do the right job of explaining exactly what I want. And then even apologizing, even getting your team together. Hey guys, I never went to leadership school here. Let's have a meeting. Like what are the 5, even the things we've done, like sending out double-blind surveys. What are the 5 things I should never do again? What are the 5 things I should always keep doing? And just getting more understanding of how you are being as a leader in the office and where people need help. And I think these are like dysfunctional relationships that just turn into those bad marriages where they're like the dying dead. No one just talks anymore. And then you get some culture expert coming over, not you, Judy, but the others that are in the industry and say, let's have a happy hour. And you just stuff all that crap in the drawer and everybody just gets drunk and somehow they think it's better, but it's not.
No, and it usually ends up in a bigger battle. And that's really what I design my culture camps around. It's really about helping people have an open conversation and kind of taking the temperature of where we are right now and where do we want to go and who's actually still on board with going there. And doctor, first of all, you tell me where it is you want to go. And then I'll help you communicate that for starters, and then get people help aligned. So,
Judy, a question for you. Sorry, let me just interrupt you. When you ask the doctor, tell me where it is you want to go, is that usually like when you have people that are like, in meltdown mode, they're calling you and they're not, things aren't going well. Is it oftentimes hard for the doctor to explain where he or she wants to go? Is that like a root cause of it?
Yeah, but yes, I would tell you though, what I normally do is it depends. And I get very different places of where doctors are at. Some are always wanting to be up here, so they want to keep everything fine tuned. And some are struggling with the Hail Mary, I think I'm going to lose my whole team. So it's a vast difference. So a lot of times what I'll ask them, and that was kind of just a short surface statement that I made, I will say, what's important to you? If you come in, you open the door in the morning, you come into your practice, how do you want to feel? What's important to you when you come to work? What are some core values that you would use to describe what you want to exist in your culture every day? And let's build around that. And that's a starter, so that helps them understand and at least have some framework to build off of.
What
Okay.
percentage is the both? What are the people that are like the high achievers that want to fine tune it versus the Hail Mary, let me just call, do the culture camp? Like what percentage is it
I would
between the two?
say I'm probably and I can only speak for myself.
No, just you specifically.
The clients that I work with, I would say I'm pretty close to 50-50, or maybe even,
Interesting.
maybe 60-40. I have the privilege of speaking often in different venues, and I think people are excited to hear that. And some are fearful, they don't want to lose what they have. So they want to make sure that they keep it a healthy environment. And I think in some people, we all continue to grow and learn, right? And they hear something and they're like, well, we could do this and this, and that would make it even better. And then you have the others that are, and then truthfully, I think I don't ever hit the bottom. I don't think they ever even realize they're doing anything wrong. I think.
Yeah, I would also like to know, I have a presumption that for the doctors that want to keep things fine tuning, they understand what they want to see, or what values they possess, or where they want to go, what vision they have, versus maybe the ones that might not know what their culture is, or may not realize that they're getting ready to lose their team. And do they even know what it is they want? Because back to the conversation about having those clear expectations, if the leader doesn't know where the practice is going or what they want, it's really hard for the team to get behind it. And so there's got to be a correlation between the two. It's like the less clear you are as a leader and where you want to go, I think the harder it is to build a strong culture, because the culture is going to go into so many different avenues.
Oh yeah. You have to have clarity. And it can't be a million things for everybody. So I actually just start out with 4 core value words, and I work with them and ask them questions. And sometimes those that are struggling more may struggle a little bit, but some of them are actually very clear about, they know what they don't want anymore, right? And that helps to clarify. And it may not even be the word they're looking for. They can just describe what's happening, what they don't want to see anymore. And you can fill in the blank a lot of times and say, well, so would that mean something like, would this be a good, caring or whatever, be something that you would strive for then. And that helps them to clarify. And I think that, it may graduate, it may change over time, but most of them are pretty clear about what they absolutely don't want to have anymore.
That's clarity, though. Just knowing what you don't like.
Yeah.
That's a start, at
That's a
least.
great start. If you don't know what you want, at least being able to define what you don't want. And I do think the dental profession, we're also not doing a good job of understanding that each practice is a snowflake, and there's so many different business models. You have the privilege, like we do, to go into so many different practices. In fact, 2 weeks ago, we saw 5 different practices in one day in Houston, and each one was like a different industry.
100%.
So it's like saying, like, let's go check out a bunch of restaurants, showing up at a Chick-fil-A and a Morton's and a blah, blah, blah. And I think from the inexperienced dentist view, because we all live in our own ecosystems, we think a dental practice is a dental practice. Got a couple chairs and you got these admin people and you got a hygienist. Like, what's so different? Why do I need to have a vision? Like, what are you talking about? And it's really unfair, because every dental practice is so incredibly unique based on the psychology skill set of the leader and the team. It's almost like a soup. I talked to Erika that every time we bring on a different person, our goal is not for them to absorb all of our culture, but for us to absorb them as well.
Right.
It's kind of like a big soup. You add garlic to it. I want the whole thing to be different. And if I could, I wrote a vision statement back in 2008 when it was just, maybe 2 or 3 employees here and a very small, disorganized operation with just my mom and my dad. And I wrote a very explicit vision of what I wanted to see. It was a descriptive vision, like how people felt, how I felt about how they felt. And it was all emotive. It wasn't like, I do 9 million a year and 16 operatories and blah, 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 or 18 operatories, whatever. It was like, how did I feel being in here? And
Right.
most importantly, how did other people feel? And how did that make me feel? And now when I look around, I'm like, it's exactly what I wanted. Exactly. Like I don't see patients on a daily basis, and I probably annoy the shit out of people because I just want to hang out with everybody because I love everyone. But it was very intentional, and I think that that was hard to do. And it took, especially for a person like me who's probably a little bit ADD, to sit down with pen and paper. It was torture, but it was a roadmap that I was able to execute. And had I not done that, I would have woken up at 50 or 51 like I am now, really unfulfilled. And I think it's important for the docs and the team that are listening to this to understand you have to sit down and get very intentional. Dentistry is not one size fits all. It's a
Yeah.
very unique business, and what patient avatar you're looking for, what type of team. I mean, there's certain people that would work at McDonald's and not work at Chick-fil-A and vice versa.
Right.
And they're both minimum wage fast food jobs.
Right. But it's different. It's a different culture. And that's one of the things I try to show in a presentation that I'll ask volunteers from the audience to come up with 4 core value words and to write them down. And then I'll go around the room and I'll say, okay, so there's 4 over here. Like one might be friendly and excellence and caring and high technology. Who knows? And another one's something legacy and trustworthy and excellence and something else. And there's like a little nuance. And then you keep going. If you go to about 10 or 12 different people, it very clearly defines that, look, there's a different energy in each of these offices. There's a different why behind why the owner doctors are doing this. And that's what we want to tap into. We don't want you to become something that you're not. We want something that's innate, that you want to be, that you want to bring out. That is your strength. That is important to you. I think back when I started my business, I was an administrator for 25 years before I got into this.
Administrator in what? In dentistry?
Dentistry, yeah.
Oh, cool.
First 10 years general, final 16 was perio. And
Okay, so like were you office manager, or like
Yeah.
tell me what you were?
office administrator.
Okay,
So
cool. Tell me what the last job was like. How many doctors, how many team?
4 doctors, 28 team members. So
Okay, and you were the chief of the whole thing, like the highest level administrative person?
my doctors came in. There was an owner doctor and 3 associates, and the owner doctor said, "This is yours. I'm going to do dentistry." So
Yeah, good.
you know how that goes, right?
Yeah,
But
I know it well. We both
I
know it
drug,
well.
I drug him into the conversation a lot more. We actually co-led a lot. He was very good to work with.
Good.
And when I decided to start my business, I remember my husband Steve saying, he goes, "Jude, what's important to you?" And he said, what do you want to do?" And I said, "I just want to help people have a better life." And I
That's
said, "I'm going to use
beautiful.
dentistry as the vehicle to do that." And so that's always been the why behind it. And I think when you can help dentists, and because everything starts with leadership, it's either what they do or what they allow that comes into their culture, because they're the only ones that can change. If they
I
don't want that, if you have a toxic team member, they're the only one who makes that final decision. Yes, your office administrator or whatever director of ops may, but it still has to be finally approved or agreed upon by the owner doctor. So it really is, the more we help the doctors understand and are clear, and I'm speaking to, you know, the people who know this well, is that, once they're clear, then we have to teach them how to communicate that in a way that their team is on board, so that their team knows, because there's nothing worse than today we're doing this and then tomorrow we're going to go this way. And then because they don't feel like they understand what the purpose is behind it then.
Sure, no consistency. So what I'm hearing in summation is that really culture, the foundation of building a good culture comes from vision, clarity around what you want to do, where you want to go, and making sure that your team understands that very clearly. And even bringing on new people that may have had one position in a different office, they may have different responsibilities within yours. And so even for an office manager, one practice that you bring into your new practice, you will set them up for failure if you're not clearly communicating your expectations within yours. And I think that's really important also for our team to have a great experience. I mean, that's kind of one of our whys, is like we focus so much on providing a great experience for our patients that sometimes we forget about providing a great experience for our team, and that's what this is about. And, we want to come into an environment where we're supported, where we feel like we can win. And when we know how to win, we can make better decisions. And I loved how you said, it's either defining what you do or what you allow.
Yeah.
And I liked how you use that word, because I think a lot of times we hear doctors, well, they'll say, I have these team members, but they always come to me for the decision, or they always come to me with all the problems, and I have to be the person behind every single decision we do, even the simple ones. And I think it also comes back around to, well, were you clear on what your expectations were?
Right.
Were you a good leader? Were you a good coach? And I just loved how you had that definition between the two. It just really resonated with me. What do you allow?
Also with the what you allow conversation too, it's like I could describe this beautiful chocolate cake I wanted to eat, and I really didn't understand the recipe. So in life, it's beautiful when you understand your unique God-given strengths, and you partner with people like I have with Erika and numerous others, where it's like I need her to get this done. I can describe a chocolate cake that she actually likes too, but she knows how many eggs and the sugar and blah blah blah. And when we say what we allow, we lost a lot of time. I mean, I don't ever look at it like we lost time, because it's all been fun and learning, and getting your ass kicked is part of the process. But allowing people too long. So Erica would oftentimes say, "This person is going to cost us a lot of money. This person's going to be a problem. Let's cut the head off the dragon while it's small." And I would just, no, 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 no. No, I'll change this person. I'll blah blah blah, because I am good at that. But you're good at changing people when they're open to changing, and they want what you want.
Right.
And there was this presumption like, oh no, they want chocolate cake too. And Erica's like, no, 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 they're gonna blow the whole place up. And invariably, they did blow it up, and we had to get rid of them. But we could have chopped those. We could have killed the dragon while they're small. And you'll meet bad people, and and when I say bad people, they're just not good fit for what you want to create. They're not bad as in good and bad human beings. They're just not right for you. And for me, I'm a connector. I like to connect with everybody, and we would have been so much further ahead. Number one, knowing what I'm good at, what I'm not good at, and explicitly defining that, and knowing what she's great at and what she's not great at, and just really doubling on our strengths and covering each other's weaknesses. And I think that we just assume that everybody's the same, and they're not. And if you have those bad players, you can't allow them. If it was up to me, all those bad people would probably still be here ruining us. But Erica wouldn't allow it. At a certain point, she got to the point where she's like, I've seen this movie before, and we're not going to go through the bad ending.
Right.
I'm like, okay. And I'm like, then you handle it. And she handles it with grace. And they hug her on the way out, usually, or sometimes they tell her, pick out your shovel because I'm going to bury you, like the one that we had.
Yes, exactly.
But allowing people, the wrong people, you're actually damaging your culture. And I think dentists get in trouble because they conflate the business with themselves. And as a business owner, your business is a little baby, and it needs to be taken care of outside of your own personal needs. So for the doctor out there that's making the money that they want, but your team is miserable because you have a toxic person, and that toxic person kisses your butt because you're the owner,
Right.
but then is ruinous to everybody else, you have to do the hard thing to protect your team, and they'll value you for that.
And you said something, about good at changing. It really depends. Like you said, the person has to be open to change. And I couldn't help but smile. I think at ADON this last year, they had me speak 5 different times. So it was like when I said, Kim, make sure use me as much as you want. She definitely did. But at every audience I had, I would get managers that had been in the industry for many, many years. I am very good. And here's the line, but Judy K, but Judy K, you don't get it. But Judy K. And I said, I know there's this one person. And I said, you don't even have to go any further. I said, here, it's really very simple. You create a culture, you make agreements as a team, how we're going to communicate, how we're going to work together. We're all in this together. We're all pieces. You call it soup, I call it pieces of a puzzle. Right? We make agreements on how we support each other. We make agreements on how we're going to enter in the morning, and we're going to be mindful of the energy we bring to each other. That's a responsibility of us. It's not my job or the manager's job to make people play well with you. It's your job to be easy to work with. It's your job to make sure you're being respectful of each other, right? You can only control what you do. You worry about what you do. So you start having these conversations, and then there's this person who's always skirting the issue, always doing the things. It's a very simple conversation. look, Susie, you're phenomenal at what you do. However, here are the agreements that we've made as a team. Is this something you're willing to support? We hope you say yes. If not, then we wish you well.
Great distinction.
Yeah. And
Not being
especially,
attached to their personal progress, because some people just want to stay stuck, and it's just up to you to release that.
Well, and they're not bad people. They have their own agenda.
Right.
They've decided.
Well, they like vanilla and you like chocolates. No big deal. They're both great ice creams.
But they want your practice to be vanilla, and
Right.
you want your practice to be chocolate. Yep.
Yeah,
Very
and
much
everybody
so.
else wants chocolate, and yeah, it is hard though when you look at that. But it's the intoxicating thing. I just want to add one thing here to kind of just take it in another direction. Is the intoxicating thing is that when you are good at affecting change and you have someone that's not a great player, but over time you grow them into a great player, and it's like, damn, I could change everybody. Like, we have so many examples of that.
Mhm.
We have two that are coming to mind, and they may listen to this, so I can't think of it right now. I'm sorry, I can't mention it right now, but we have two people that one was never really happy at work, kind of like FML, it's Monday, I hate Mondays. And now I just talked to her and she's like, look, I would be miserable if I didn't have work and purpose. And another one had left the office or the organization for 4 or 5 years and came back and is actually doing better now. And
sorry, I'm like raising the hand here
Yeah.
too, because also throughout this process, I think that when you're saying, other people are growing, which they are, but we grew.
Yeah.
And
Right.
so I think if we look back at it to say we're actually better at
Yeah.
providing clarity and direction and expectations, which then allows this person the opportunity to be better and
Yeah,
to grow.
Erika will take the pie in the sky ideas and boil them down to, like, here's the 5 steps to win. Here's how you can be successful every day. And I'm fast paced and low detail. So it's just like, hey, come follow me. It'll all be great.
Yeah. Well, and that's, when you look at this as far as them learning and changing, and over the years, I've met some people that have really a light switch has changed. And you said the powerful words at the beginning, your mindset, and it's amazing how much power our mind has, and people don't realize it often. And when we shift, the only difference between something being stressful or not stressful is our thought process on it, right?
Mhm.
And when, it's funny, like if you have a Saturday and you have all the time in the world to do something, you're not stressed about it. But if you're doing it during the middle of the week and you thought it should have been done at 9 and it's now 9:20, you're stressed, right? So it's always that mind shift. And some of these people, all of a sudden, something changed in their life where they decided, you know what? I actually want to be here and I really want to make this work. And then you see this where they're coachable, because a lot of people, when they're resistant, they're not coachable.
Mhm.
They're not open to hearing it.
And sorry, go ahead.
Well,
Sorry.
I think of one person in particular that it amazes me what I see when I go into work with offices. I walk in the morning, that first day, and she's at the back door, and I'm walking in with the doctor, and she's literally glaring at me. And I'm thinking, well, that's probably not a great way to start out our connection, but she's glaring at me, and the doctor introduces us, and I say, good morning. And she's like, yeah. And she walks away. So later I'm talking to her, and she's
I've had those people.
extremely talented at what she's doing, but she's just, a monster. She's toxic. So I pull her aside later in the day and I'm chatting with her, and I said, I just have one question for you. She goes, oh, here's some rah-rah stuff. And I said,
Right.
oh, no, I have no rah-rah for you. None
Yeah.
whatsoever.
You're
I said,
past the
I have a
point of
question.
rah-rah.
Why do you want to sabotage your success? I said, what are you afraid of? And she's like, well, what do you mean? And I said, why are you so afraid to be good at what you do? Why are you intentionally sabotaging that? And she was really quiet. And I said, take the night, think about it. And I said, if you're going to come back tomorrow with the same attitude, don't even come to the culture camp. I said, it'll be a distraction. Don't waste your time, and more importantly, our time. And I said, but if you have a change at heart, I said, we'd love to see you, and we'd like to start fresh, line in the sand day. So the next morning she came and she said, and this is the hard part in life. She said, no one's ever told me that I'd ever be worth anything. No one's ever believed that I had the capability. Everybody's always told me I was going to be a failure. So she said, if I sabotage it myself, then I couldn't blame it. I couldn't say it was me, really. I could say I chose that. So it wouldn't hurt as bad.
Yeah, it's funny because, well, that part's not funny, but I hear it so often where you have people that just have low self worth or they're just looking for that external validation. And that when they don't get it through the process, they just end up becoming the very thing that they didn't want to or that other people were
Right.
saying that they were going to be. And it is interesting, we do have the choice to create our own destiny. And some of the advice that I give to my team members is that, you know, you have the decision to take your life into whatever direction that you want it to be. Like, don't let anyone else determine your destiny or what your success looks like, at any cost. And if you're having trouble knowing what that looks like or how to get there, you've got many resources.
Right.
But ultimately, you're the one deciding every single step of the way. And I think that what you also did with that comment with that team member is that you're turning the mirror back on them. And Dr. Craig will say that all the time is that you show them themselves,
Right.
have them discover that they are at the root cause. Because what we've also seen is that we have other team members or have had team members that have left and gone to other places that supposedly grass is greener.
Right.
But you can't escape yourself. And
No.
so what they realize is that they actually brought the problem with them, and didn't really resolve anything at all. And so I think it's an interesting perspective. It's like, culture starts with knowing where you want to go, communicating that well, and also leading yourself. You have to
Yeah.
lead yourself first.
Judy, you did something very subtle, but it's very important for people to unpack. And I want to you said something very important. You can't influence somebody when you're also judging them. So when we judge this person, she sucks, she's always showing up in a miserable mood and blah, blah, blah. You have no power over them. So you said something is very small, but I'm a word guy. You said, tomorrow's a blank slate.
Mhm.
Tomorrow's a blank slate. We're starting fresh. Tomorrow's the first day of whatever you want to create. And what you did in that moment is like, hey, I'm suspending judgment. I don't know you. I know you snarled at me today, and I know you're being a wet mop or whatever with your energy, but tomorrow's a new day. So one of the things that I think has been very powerful for both Erika and I is like when Erika goes in a meeting and she's like, oh, because we all have these things. We're all human. We're like, yeah, she's late and blah, blah, blah. And this person's like, and I'm like, listen, if you're going to have any power on this person, suspend your judgment. You have to release what you know about them because it takes two to tango. And this woman who you turned around, all you did was like, hey, I'm new. Tomorrow could be a new day. And each one of us, we're new every day. And we're sometimes monsters on a Wednesday and getting better by Thursday. But it's a human experience to constantly be evolving. But the problem is we stack all this crap on ourselves and other people stack it on us. Sometimes you need to shift an environment just so you have that opportunity, which you gave that woman. You started her fresh in her own space. And I think it's just important. Release judgment. If you really want to influence people, you must release it. Eric always says to me, people feel what you believe. So if you're using really nice words, but you're like, this person's such a piece of crap. Oh God, they're so freaking lazy. Blah, blah, blah. If that's your dialogue about them, you're never going to be able to help them.
Oh yeah. Well, you can sense.
You feel
the
it.
energy's there.
Yeah, your words are good, but your energy is like, you suck, you suck. And they hear it.
Well, and that's the thing. It's when we're working with somebody, I think so oftentimes we get to their toxic person before we've even had any conversations.
Well, the doctor pre-programs you. Judy, watch out for Becky. She's a monster.
Oh, yeah,
So
exactly.
then you have to, okay, well, doc, what makes her a monster?
Yeah.
And blah, blah, blah. And why is she still here? And then you get to see that Becky's probably not a monster. It's that doc has been really harsh on her sometimes. Maybe Becky could be a monster, I'm just saying. But oftentimes it's that they're been labeled and judged.
A lot of times it's misunderstandings, it's assumptions, and and let's be honest, there's certain people we click with easier than others. There's we have that.
That's a problem too, by the way, Judy. That's a huge problem. We like to hire people like ourselves. If I hired a bunch of people like me, this organization would be gone quick. You have great ideas, but it would sync with awesome ideas. So it's really important not to hire who you like and who is like you, but who complements you. Find out where you're weak and hire that person.
That's one of the things we do too, and and I focus on the culture camps because that's my experience. That's the capacity of how I work with teams, instead of like long-term coaching. And one of the things we do is we talk about, people have a tendency to really like, personality testing and all of that. And I will say that I'm oftentimes not a fan, because people will pick up and label themselves, oh, I'm a D, or I'm an I, or I'm this, and this is just how I behave. And they use it as more of a weapon or an excuse. And as I say, labels are an excuse to continue the behavior than they do, to really make a difference. And so one of the things we talk about is the strengths of this person taken to excess are the things that drive you bonkers, right? And I use my husband as an example a lot. He loves it. He's used to it. But he's has all the time in the world for me. He will take time to do whatever, but that means he also runs behind a lot, right? So there's that ebb and flow. For me, I'm a get it done yesterday, let's make this happen. But sometimes I'm not going to stop and smell the flowers. And so there's that balance. And when we balance each other out, and that's where I'll say to the team, I said, look, this is the perfect person for you right here, because they excel at this and you excel at that. And it's just like those pieces of the puzzles going together where it's a perfect fit. So I think the big thing is it's just that we don't spend the time talking about and actually having a conversation. Instead, we want to label somebody and say, well, this is what they need, versus just saying, Erika, tell me what's important to you. What can I do to make our relationship better or easier for you to work with me? That would be my conversation.
I love that, especially as like a first start. This morning I had a conversation with one of our team members that was having a tough time learning how to mend a relationship.
A doctor, no less, right?
Yeah. And part of that is that sometimes we have those expectations, and that when we expect people to think like us and act like us, that there's an upset when they don't. We have to let that go in order to move forward. And at some point, someone has to be the one to take the initiative. But I think that with the labels, and something that we've done in our organization pretty well, is that we don't have labels for specific things. We keep them pretty generic. And even when it comes to, let's say, the label of office manager, it isn't the same office to office. And so when you box them in, or you have that label, you are setting up that person for failure, because it can be different. And, judgments. You also have the personality tests, like you had mentioned before, that, yeah, sometimes people fixate on that label or that word, and then they use it to their advantage or disadvantage. And it is unfair. I think it's information, it's context to the whole. It's one small piece.
Right.
If you can navigate using it as one small piece of the whole.
Right. Yeah, and I think that that's so key. When I think about the people and their personalities and how they're working through it, so many times they don't take the time, or they don't want to. They just want a quick. Let's just make this quick exchange and move on.
Yeah.
And
the same with you. Like, what are the 4 steps to creating iconic culture? Oh my God! Like,
I thought we were going to talk about that today.
Yeah,
What's the 4 magic steps?
Do we have to go through the whole culture camp? Come on, Judy. It's not that hard. It's just is it just cookies? Like, I was on an AACD podcast the other day, and I probably won't ever be invited back, because they talked to me about leadership. Like, hey, what are the things that you can do to improve culture? Like, one of our members said, like, bring a dog to work. I was like, okay, so if you have crappy culture, now you have a dog in your office, now you have crappy culture plus dog shit. That doesn't help, like it's not cookies and dogs. It's really hard. And fortunately, it's hard, or else everybody could do it masterfully.
Well,
but those steps are the frustrating question.
The relationships are what's challenging. Actually, not to bring it back to the conversation we had this morning, but we focus, or especially this person focuses so much on the tactical. Well, I said thank you, and I did this, and I did that, and I'm like, okay, but these tactical transactional things is what's missing the point, is that you're not connecting as a human being on that emotional level and just getting down to it. The root cause is it's like we just need to know that we're supported, that people care, and that we are existing, moving towards a common goal,
Right.
and that's the relationship part is the hard part.
And it's compounded in our practice, because in our practice, if you're a doctor, it doesn't entitle you to boss the people around. So you come from other practices, and doesn't matter what the doctor says, you go get the masks right now. And in our practice, that doesn't fly. So she's actually she's sticking out like a sore thumb, because she came from other practice. Like, well, I'm the doctor. I'm supposed to tell you what to do. So when the leaders like you and me never demand things from people, it makes she has to massage her leadership even more. She's in
Right.
the leadership MBA now. And I think it's incumbent upon those associates and doctors that work there. Like, you are the highest person up there, but you need to be excellent in your leadership. Your position does not entitle you to be respected. And if you want to hold a gun to people and you are the boss and you want to use the gun on people, you're going to have a very low level of culture. If people are just scared of you and doing it because you hold the gun, that's not real leadership.
Yeah, and wait until they take the gun away from you, right? You
Yep.
know, and it's so true. So when people start playing games, though, they go, "Well, what about this, Judy K? Can I do this?" I look at them and I just laugh and I say, "So would that be a healthy adult relationship?" Because this is really about, we're working together. If there's two of us working together right now, there's three of us. What do we need to make this successful? If you don't want to be a part of helping make it successful, then go somewhere else where you do want to be a part of that. But in the meantime, we have to respect each other and treat each other with kindness, and help support each other. That's really, you don't have to love me. I don't have to love you. We don't have to agree with everything you do outside of the office, and so many things. Doctors are, okay, well, should I address this? And I said, well, do you consider that's a healthy adult relationship? Well, no. And how about throwing instruments? Is that a healthy adult relationship?
Can I
Well,
do that at least, Judy? Don't take that away from me. I love throwing my instruments.
well,
It's
good luck
definitely
on
more
that one.
dramatic.
Yeah, can I spray the water like Jennifer Aniston did in that? What was that movie where she
Oh,
she
yeah,
was sexually
yeah.
harassing her male
Horrible
assistant?
bosses or
Yeah,
something like
she
that.
sprayed the water on him. Like, oh look, I got you all wet.
Yeah.
It's
So, I
toxic.
mean, we play a lot of games, and that's the hard part when it comes to the soft skills, which are really the hard skills to do, to accomplish. It's we say, well, it wasn't really clear, it wasn't really written down, it wasn't really this, and it really boils down to, when we step across that threshold, we're changing the culture. What we bring in as an individual changes that culture immediately. It's what we do or don't do. It's everything about it. It's not, you can't enter that. It's, you're breathing the same air. You're exhaling in there. It's all connected. So I think that's one of the things that I work really hard with the teams, is helping them understand their ownership, and the doctors helping them understand their ownership in what they do or don't do to help create good relationships. And truthfully, you guys, the most important thing in our life is our relationships. That's where our happiness comes from.
Absolutely.
Amen. It's so
You know,
true. I applaud you for what you're doing, because as an industry, when you look at the 30,000-foot view, we're really not doing very well, unfortunately. I find myself on Facebook groups that are 30, 40,000 members, and the caustic, toxic comments about these effing hygienists and these office managers and there's so much division. We're all on the same team, but yet it's like front versus back and doctor versus hygienist. And it's like, I just want to shake everybody up. So I applaud you for what you're doing, because we need like 20 more of you. I mean, that you're a drop in an ocean of broken culture and psychology, and it's such a beautiful profession, as spending half your life in a dental office.
yeah,
It can be a beautiful thing. We get paid to help people, and everybody plays a very important role, whether you're on the phones at the front or sterilization or the clinicians. It's really noble and great that we get paid to help people, and
yeah,
it's broken. And it's not, I mean, people at Chick-fil-A are probably happier than the average dental person, and they're selling a sandwich that's arguably very bad for you. What we sell is good for people. We help people, and it's broken. So I applaud you for what you're doing, and I'm glad that this message is getting out to people. I hope it spreads for the sake of our profession.
Well,
Well, that's all we can do is try to help one step, one practice at a time, right?
So Judy, I want to be respectful of your time. How do we get in touch with Judy K of Culture Camp? Like, can we put a website at the show notes or something like that for you?
Yeah, that would be, it's practicesolutionsInc.net.
Okay.
And solutions is plural. So, and there's just a little box there. They can type in Ask Judy K and just fill that out and, put your name or your question and I'll respond to you.
Okay, sweaty back moment. I'm going to put you on the spot. Is there any chance that you would do something kind for our listeners? Can you do something special for them if they say they came from Bulletproof for you?
Sure. So I have 3 books. If somebody wants a complimentary book, I'll send them a book.
Sweet. That's all I needed. I just want to feel special. You
Yeah.
made us all. You made our listeners feel special.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
It'll help lessen the boxes I have to move.
Yeah, I know the feeling. We got a book too.
It's a win-win.
Yeah, it's awesome. Well, Judy, really appreciate it. Special thanks to Erika for making this all happen because she was the one who was like, we got to get her on the podcast. And I appreciate you making this happen. I appreciate you being generous with your time and helping lift our profession. It's a noble endeavor, and I appreciate you.
Absolutely.
very
Thanks, Judy.